I want to briefly discuss something that I know a lot are probably going to be talking about, and I want to get it out of the way before I dive into my first impressions / review of Overlord. So, this is very vital, actually. Supposedly, Funimation, that currently is, streaming this on their website, they messed up with some form of their video upload, and it caused it to where Overlord had choppy frames and animation for the first, 4 or 5 minutes. And I actually noticed. I sat down, watched Overlord, and as soon as I started, it was lagging. I thought my streaming was lagging. I'm like, what the fuck? I don't experience this. It's coming from a dude that sat there and binge-watched Gintama freaking day after day, and then also, is currently binge-watching, Kuroko, and I don't experience any lag. So I'm like, what the hell is going on here with Overlord? At first, I thought it was Madhouse messing up the animation and art. I'm like, Madhouse, no, don't do this. I come to find out after looking online and seeing some complaining about it, apparently Funimation messed up in the RAWs of this series. For instance, the RAWs of Overlord looks completely fine. So, something to do on Funimation's end when they uploaded this and on their site, and it was lagging for the first 4 or 5 minutes. After about the 4 or 5 minute mark, the episode clears up and it looks pretty damn good. So, just throwing that out there. So anyways, let's get into my first impressions of Overlord. If you have no idea who is making this, it is by Studio Madhouse. Yes, Studio Madhouse, famous for a lot of their recent works and quickly becoming one of the most famous anime studios in Japan by the anime they continue to make. And once again, they bring us another very interesting anime called Overlord. Now, the premise of the series is where one day a game server, and the year 2153 or 54, it's somewhere around in there. I know it's in the 2100s, but anyways, the point is, okay, in that time frame, there is a server, a game server that is about to close down, about to shut down, quietly, just shut down. And in the act of this, you have it to where our main male character that is like the Overlord, like he's the Demon King. Just picture him as the main final boss of the fucking series. Like he is the Overlord, Supreme Demon King, okay? Now that you got that in your mind, the server is quietly shutting down. Like, everybody has pretty much abandoned the game, and he's staying in until the server shuts down, and, shuts down completely, and he's forcefully logged out. That is what his entire goal was in the first half of the episode. As it progresses, you come to find out that for some reason, when the time ticked past, and when the server was supposed to shut down, it didn't shut down. He was still in the game. But here's the interesting part. All the game mechanics, for instance, all the game mechanics like message system to, going to the commands to choose what magic you want to use and different things like that. The standard display if you were to play a game. Like if you were to play World of Warcraft or something, and you see the display of different buttons you can click to use different magic or items and stuff. That's kind of what it was showing. Like the main male character no longer could activate any of his commands. He can no longer contact his fellow friends in the world. He can no longer contact the GMs. He couldn't use, majority of his message system unless it was an NPC. And so the entire game turned into real life. That's what it turned into. And it's kind of like, how to describe it? It's like a mix of Log Horizon and Sword Art Online. Now, I'm not saying this is Sword Online. I'm not saying this is Log Horizon. I'm not. Because from what we are seeing, the game actually turned to real life. In Log Horizon, it's still a game, because there's interfaces and stuff like that we see in Log Horizon. And so far from what I can see, it doesn't seem like there is any economics or politics. Well, it might have politics, judging by the position of our main male character, but at the time, it's kind of like a mix, I'm assuming, of SEO and Log Horizon. But the world has turned to real life. It's not a game no longer. There's no functionality as a game. It's a fucking real life. Now, it's like a new world. Now, back on point. Now that I've said that, my first impressions of the series, when it came to, the premise, it's something I'm really interested in, because I'm a hardcore gamer. I do love playing a lot of games in my spare time. Like, when I'm not doing reviews, and I'm not, editing, or, coloring thumbnails, and chatting on, social networks with YouTubers, usually I sit down and do stuff and have fun. Like, for instance, I sit down, read manga, watch anime, or, I'll play some games. And I love playing my RPG games. I'm a big sucker for RPG games, especially MMORPGs, and I like this type of stuff. It really, I can relate to why certain people would want to actually, stay in a server if it was about to shut down. Because I actually have a similar story about this. in the time of when, like, games were shutting down in Xbox 360, remember when we found out that Xbox games, like the original Xbox games servers were shutting down? There was a lot of gamers that were really upset about that because, like, Halo 2 and different games like that were shutting down, and I was actually kind of part of that. On the final day of Halo 2, before the server shut down for the original Halo game, I stayed on all day until the server was done, for instance, until it was the time to get off. And that's what I did. And so I can really relate to a person wanting to stay on a game until it shuts down. I really can, because if you have put a lot of time and effort and manpower into certain things, for instance, let's look at it like this. Let's say you're reading One Piece, okay? Let's use One Piece as an example. I know not everybody reads One Piece, but I'm using it as an example. You read One Piece, and you spend countless and countless hours reading this series, watching this series, and you've stuck with it for many months, many years, however long it's been. You put a lot of time into this series, or this franchise, or whatever it is. You put a lot of time into it. And then just to see it, disappear, it's kind of like your child is dying, or your baby is dying, or something like, a part of yourself that you've nurtured for a long time is just gone. It's gone like that. And that's kind of what you can get from the scene when, the main male character wants to stay on the server until it ends, and then he ends up in a new world. So I like the setup of the first episode. It's really good, and it makes me want to see where it's going to go, and it's by Studio Madhouse, so obviously I was going to watch it regardless, because I'm a big fan of Madhouse, and Madhouse does make bad series from time to time. I have witnessed it firsthand. And so I do know they can have hit or miss series, but usually I want to stick around and see what Madhouse comes up with, because they tend to have a lot of good anime. They usually do some very good stuff that really shines from each individual anime season, and Overlord once again seems like another series that is going to be a shining gem of summer of anime 2015. To get back down to the main nitty-gritty points of the series, let's talk about, I guess, what I expect from the series, like from what I'm assuming is going on. Judging from what I heard from fellow Chibits on Twitter and Facebook, some Chibits told me that this series is adapting its original source, I think, manga, properly. So the original source is getting adapted correctly, based Madhouse, because usually Madhouse adapts things properly, and it makes me happy to see how they are doing that with Overlord, because whoever's big fans of Overlord and has stuck with this series for a very long time, probably since the beginning, I bet you're very happy to see how this series is being properly handled by Studio Madhouse. Now that I got that out of the way, I've did the premise. Let's see, I've talked about the premise, I've talked about, my feelings towards, the main male character wanting to stay on the server. Let's see, I've talked about the choppy animation, which I know a lot are probably going to complain about, but it wasn't really Overlord's fault, it was Funimation's. I think I've covered everything I need to cover. What do I think is going to happen, actually? That's one thing I want to expect. I'm assuming since he's the Overlord and the title of the series, like, Overlord, I think he's going to probably try to conquer the world or something. Or he's going to try to become the king of the world. Because for him to be Overlord, and he's kind of like the in-game final boss of the series, like, the game, people try to come after him, it makes you believe that this dude is, going to try to conquer the world. And, well, he's already conquered the world, though, if you think about it. He kind of already has. So does he really necessarily need to conquer the world again? So we'll have to see. So tell me your thoughts. I mean, I love you all so much. You have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.